Well, lovely to meet you. Thank you so much for coming on Living Reflections.
Likewise, it's an honor. Thank you.
I went on EPN podcast about October, November last year, and
Hmm.
I was talking about my integrity centered leadership, and
Hmm.
I wanted to find a similar voice to me who talked from their lived experience, who spoke about their journey and their emotions and that sort of thing. And I couldn't find anybody, and then I found yours. It was like about 6 weeks before my episode went live, and it was like the only voice amongst all these leaders that in the world that I could relate to. And then what you were saying with heart-centered leadership and talking from your story, I so resonated. I thought, I want that guy on my new podcast. So yeah,
Yeah,
that.
thank you for reaching out. Absolutely.
So come on in to the lounge room and get comfortable for the exchange.
Where ideas meet, stories unfold, and perspectives deepen.
Thank you for being here, and thank you for bringing your story and your lived experience, your leadership, and the things that your philosophy that you've brought from your lived experience. So, do you want to start there and talk us through the truth beneath your work and what led you here?
All right. I did not choose to go into this. Life just kind of chose it for me. And it's all started when, at the age of 5, I was diagnosed with autoimmune skin condition. At the time, it's called atopic dermatitis or eczema, widely known for everybody. Then, at the age of 8, it got so severe that the doctor said I have to be medicated my whole life. Right. And that was basically in my teen years, being pushed around and having no say about what my health is all about. I mean, I was just a kid. How would I know, right? So I blindly followed, and I just basically, in that process, saw a lot of adults, right? Authorities, doctors, teachers, parents, parents, friends, neighbors, and everybody was just telling me what to do, my life. And of course, I have my own lived experience of the disease in itself and realized that only at the age of 16 that, what the adults say might not be completely true. Maybe I should be, choosing and listening to my own gut instinct. But at the age of 16, especially from Asian descent, Chinese family background, going against what adults is saying, because we have some sort of ageism going on in the Asian culture. We respect the adults, but we have mistaken that for obedience. So there's a deep internal shame that I was internalizing at that time. If I were to go against these people, I would have been a bad child. Right. But
Yeah.
I did it anyway. At the age of 16, I stopped all my medication. I
Wow.
dropped it all away. I decided to lead my own life and start to go do my own research, right? Through books at that time, and then eventually through the internet and so on and so forth. And then what happens after that was a journey, a healing journey, a self healing journey, and of course a very spiritual journey because I've exhausted all physical modalities, mental modalities, try to figure out the trauma aspect, emotional modalities, and then it eventually led me to discovering spiritual modalities. And long story short, 15 years go by. I traveled over 5 different continents, tried 100 plus different modalities, and came COVID-19, where the lockdown happened and I suddenly lose accessibility to all of these things that I've learned. And eventually, like, okay, I'm all by myself now. I should have healed. But during COVID-19, I was bedridden again.
Mm.
Why did I not heal? Am I missing something? And at that time, I was like, hey, and I was talking to God and the universe and saying, hey, am I missing something? What is it and that I'm missing? How is it that after all this spiritual modalities, healing, meditation, emotional healing, I've I've learned everything. I've met masters, shamans, practitioners, naturopaths, biohackers. Why am I not healing? And right away in that moment, I wanted to kill myself because I thought I tried my best.
Mm.
Why not just give up? Because it was torturing day in and day out.
Mm.
And yeah, it's really painful just thinking about that moment again. But during the darkest moment was when I realized the greatest truth, right? I was sick because I was doing it to myself. And the word from a divine intervention was just, please forgive yourself. Forgive. So that was when I realized if I hate myself, I can't heal, right?
Yeah.
And when I realized that and bring love back to my life, and that was an act of leadership, a love as leadership, heart-centered leadership, I healed in 90 days without any modalities. It goes to show that, wow, my body knows how to heal. And the heart is the organ in the body that leads the body, right? Love is the lead, is what leads everything. And when we bring back love into our leadership, healing just happens and healing is just a natural byproduct. And when I know that it can happen in my body, I know that it can happen in the world. I've seen it happen in nature.
Mm.
Now, the question at that time, I was 30, right? It was 5 years ago. Then I asked myself, can this happen in businesses, in leadership, in the very system that we live in? Can I change one heart at a time and create a ripple effect after that? And eventually create the world that we know is possible, the beautiful world that we know is possible. Because I do see that healing is not just one angle.
Mm.
You have to bring in the social aspect, the educational aspect, the finances, the mental, the emotional. All of these things has to come together in a cohesive, integrative way. And the missing link is that's missing in the world right now is our leadership, our willingness to make that change, to lead from love rather from fear.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I could relate to your story so much. Like, I have had many traumatic experiences from my childhood and through into my adulthood. Um, Again, when I joined the military, and I got down
Well,
to my knees times, down to the darkest times, not wanting to, like, feeling like I have always had a positive mindset, but I think there was a lack of loving self as well, because of
absolutely.
what I've lived through and what others, how people were saying, like, had control of you and what they were saying to you. I think there's a element of, like, control was out of my life. So I felt like I hated myself because I didn't know really what love was because I didn't grow up in that environment. Yes, many
Yeah, and in
factors.
fact, we lack a lot of role models that really helps us to, show what it can be done, and the belief that love is stupid, right? Right? When you are loving kind in the world, you're gonna get burned, you're gonna get cheated and betrayed. That was the worldview. Of course, we're not gonna go into our heart and lead from that space.
Yeah, true, so true. Leadership is like such an important, it really determines the world, doesn't it? Determines peace, it determines war, it determines um, where the people are going to be led by and what we're going to think about that. And it's such an important thing. And that's why I have always led by integrity first, and because that's my highest value. And in the military, when they questioned my integrity about what happened, that's when I fell to pieces. And so I love the concept that you have of having heart-centered leadership and the various pillars to that. Do you still, like, on your website, I couldn't find the 4 pillars. Do you still work with those, or?
Yeah, I think the pillars has evolved into something of of a 5-step framework. Now it's not 4 now.
Oh, good. That's great.
Because because the pillars essentially inspired from the perspective where if you want to treat something, you do not treat the effect, you want to treat the cause, right? And the cause is usually stem from our environment. So this could be applied like in a business culture on from a business culture perspective, for example, right? If your attrition rate is high, the turnover is high, right? Maybe it's not just the hiring process that is the problem. Maybe there's a leadership cultural issue at root that is enforcing, you know, the problem that is that.
Mm.
And perhaps it's the kind of level of conversation that's happening on the inside. And then if you try to dig deeper, it's usually the mental health of a leader that is burnout, fear-based, and they are unable to find the right talents or cultivate the right talents. So the pillars, eventually evolve into the 5 steps framework that covers, can we look into the mental space, the emotional space, the relational space, the physical space, as well as the spiritual space, right? And can we create a conducive environment? And when a conducive environment is created, people just thrive. Money just comes in, right? And there's a saying, right? Don't chase the butterflies, create the butterfly farm so that the butterfly comes to you. And this framework is inspired from that perspective.
Mm, mm. What I love is how, we've come from different countries, growing up in different ways with various traumas that have happened in our life external to ourselves, but we've both come to a place where I want to understand and I want to heal and I want to love, and we've drawn on our own research and learning through that and growing through that, and nature is also something that I thrive in. I love, and I have a very close relationship with God and spiritual path. But now then, when we look into our models, my well-being model I've done in my doctorate research since 2009 and has developed that through my trauma, and my 5 core responses are exactly the same as yours.
How interesting. Yeah.
And I think it's because of the way that we view the world, the way that what we're taking from our learnings and creating something that is actually powerful and stable within someone's life, and you can build on that, and it depends on the context of how you build on it. I just found that
Absolutely.
fascinating.
I think that's a unified principle, like, the law of nature. And I got to witness this firsthand when I was in South Africa, in Timbavati. I was in a conservation space for the protection of the white lions, right? And I was there for a leadership course in nature, right? So I feel like we come across the same, similar conclusion about the framework of like how we approach healing and leadership is because that's how nature works. Right. If we think about Lion King, I mean, even though it's just a children's cartoon, but that's a very strong leadership lesson in there, right? When we lead from graciousness, when we lead from nobility, from sharing and generosity, when Mufasa was leading the land, that was circle of life, right? And then when Scar took over in power, in greed, power over in greed, in controlling others, the land is barren.
Yeah.
And then when Simba came back and took back his space as a rightful king, which is what I feel many people, it's a message for many people to be able to cultivate self-leadership, to take their part in their world in whatever that they do, the circle of life thrives again. And I got to see this experience in Timbavati, right? There's a phenomenon, the natural phenomenon called trophic cascading, where when you bring the apex predator to its natural habitat, the entire ecosystem changes itself, thrives, regenerates to heal. And it's a spontaneous kind of way, right? There's definitely a scientific research done in Yellowstone with the wolves, right? When they reintroduce back the wolves back to Yellowstone, the entire ecosystem starts to flourish again. And I got to witness this firsthand in Timbavati, South Africa, where on one side there was cut to kill industry, trophy hunting, illegal poaching, over commoditizing of nature. That land is barren. And then in the sanctuary where the white lion was roaming, the ecosystem is thriving, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's a definitely a universal principle in this. And I think a lot of us are finally discovering what that is. And I've been speaking to many leaders and business people. Many people desire that. And
Mm.
everybody's trying to figure out what's that framework, what's that, how do we bring this really practically, into the world, into difficult conflict, into you know, an environment where it's volatile, uncertain, unprecedented changes are happening, AI, right? We live in a very interesting time in history, and more than
Mm.
ever, we need more leaders who come through from their heart.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, the compassion where we're starting in the leadership series, being more compassionate towards the people that we lead, towards each other, um, and that all the compassion comes from love, from our center, from our heart, from having an open mind, and yeah, driving the best that we can into our people, into others. That's been part of leading with the heart without burning out or overgiving. I think so many leaders we see are in the burnout. I'm wondering if we can look at that same principle, that are they leading more from a place of um, like emptiness? Are they actually bringing self-love and self-compassion? Is that part of also the inward side of us leading out? Like I've certainly learnt that I was always in a giving role, and I needed to have more time for me and to um, nurture me and come from a more of a fuller place than an empty place. And then I'd burn out less. Have you experienced that in
Absolutely.
leadership in your coaching and things?
All the time. And it's look, let me just demystify a little bit about burnout because most people think it's like working too much, too hard, doing too many things with life. But I'll say burnout is just doing too many things that is not at our highest value or our highest purpose that is the most meaningful to us. And it's this feeling like we need to continuously put on a mask to perform, to
Yeah,
please, to prove, to chase after the next thing, fulfill the next commitment, obligation, and responsibilities. And with people who love so much, who care and give so much, we forgot how to say no. And like what you say with integrity, right? This is why love needs integrity. It has wisdom in that. Compassion in the Buddhist philosophy, we has wisdom in it on what do we need to do to protect what's precious within us, right? So burnout is a sign. To me, it's not a problem. It's a feedback loop of like, hey, you're out of alignment, you're out of integrity. And I have a philosophy for myself. If it's not right for me, it's not right for anyone because we are the provider and our cup should be the fullest, right? And we need to learn how to fill that cup with love, with self-care, of course, but also with meaning, right? On the mental perspective, able to regulate our nervous system and emotions at will, right? So that we adapt quickly to situations. But we also need to surround ourselves with community and relationships and support that believes in us unconditionally, supports us unconditionally. And of course, with concepts of biohacking, nutrition, being out in the sun. And when I say biohacking, I'm not talking about these machines or the peptide jabs that we're doing. I'm talking about, do we have enough water? Are we following our circadian rhythm and resting deeply, right? And of course, finally, are we living our soul's true purpose? Most people burn out because our definition of success is the expectation of someone else, not our truth. So the soul hijacks itself, not to victimize us or anything, is to show us, hey, I think you've forgotten something. How about let's look into this and see how you can realign everything for yourself. And I've definitely experienced this for myself when I'm putting out offers in my business, taking in clients and coaching clients that is not aligned to my values, and and also humbling myself in a way that I can't help everybody and I'm not here to save the world. I'm just here to express my gift that's within me, and that is it. If you try to do anything beyond that, the burnout comes true.
Yes, yes. And I think going back to your initial learning about yourself, like I always followed my purpose throughout my life, but I was a high achiever. And I was a high achiever because I didn't want to deal with my childhood. And so I was
Oh,
running
absolutely.
away from the trauma and still hating myself. And so I burned out by not dealing with what I really need to deal with. When things um, aren't going well in our life and they start bubbling up to the surface, it means like, you got to deal with that now. This is like you have to really talk about that and get that out of your system because it's coming up for a reason, whether in your dreams or in thoughts. Yeah, so
Absolutely.
more different ways, but it's so important to deal with those things, which I'm glad you really did younger in learning that. Oh, I suppose it was COVID that really taught you.
I guess throughout my teen years and my in my 20s in the search of healing, I was exposed to that. And you see, I think this is why certain crises, disease, whether it's a breakup, whether it's a financial crisis, whether it's a family thing, maybe someone died in our family or whatever crisis that hits us. My mentor, Dr. Darren Weissman, will always say, hey, this is a gift in strange wrapping paper. Right? It's here to bring you certain things and lessons to learn, new possibilities to explore. And many people come and ask me, is pain necessary for transformation? Right. And I wouldn't say that we should go out and find pain to transform ourselves. That isn't necessary. But pain is definitely parts and parcel of life. And the more we can accept and listen to the feedback, there's usually wisdom, insights, new awareness, new amazing gifts that the universe is trying to give us and offer us that is awaiting for us. And yes, being very, very sick at a young age has definitely showed me what integrity is that cannot be found in books,
Mhm.
what taking care and self-care is that cannot be found in any teacher's lessons or workshops. A lot of this is self-discovery, and I am a big proponent of people reclaiming their inner authority, their own inner wisdom. And that to me is the crux of where heart-centered leadership comes from. It's not about outsourcing, you know, and about recognizing that you have an entire universe inside of you, and
Yeah,
you better listen to that
yeah,
because it always guides you towards the right direction.
yes. So if there's some people that are listening who are in survival mode and
Absolutely.
they're really, they're wanting to catch on what you're saying and they're wanting to move towards that heart centered place. How do we stay there? Or how do we even get there if our nervous system is in survival mode?
Yeah, I think the first step is definitely helping yourself to be safe, right? I think safety is not spoken about enough in any personal growth workshop or leadership workshop. Again, like if you're trying to make yourself better, you're already saying that something is wrong with you, that you need help, you're broken, you need to be fixed. So my first step to create safety for people, and I start my workshop with this question all the time. Today is not about asking what's wrong with you and what you need to fix about yourself to get to the next level of success or goal that you want to reach. Today is an exploration about what's right with you.
Mm.
And right away, the conversation inside of you starts to shift.
Yeah.
And you just gave out the feeling already, the restfulness of the nervous system. Oh my God, I don't have to chase after anything. The higher achiever in you is like, oh, I get to sit back and relax and explore what's right with me. Then the child inside of you is free to come out and play, and the creativity starts to come through. So creating safety, yes, nervous system regulation and learning how to process emotion is big, but the big proponent is the intentionality. Where are we coming from?
Mm.
Right? Are we improving ourselves because there's something wrong with us and something shameful that we need to change? Or we can start the conversation about this is what's right with me, and let's improve on this. And when you do that, something happens. And this is the most important thing about leadership, I believe. And I learned this from the quote of Buckminster Fuller. And he said something like, create a new paradigm that is so powerful that makes the old obsolete. Right?
Mm.
This is Dr.
So when
Mel
you see
Baker
what's right with
holding
you,
space
what's
for
wrong
our
with you
living
is just shift
voices.
away.
If you would like to be part of
It
this
drops off. You
podcast
don't
and
have to
share
let
your
go of
story,
anything. Things
please
let
get in
go of
touch
you.
with me. Thanks for
Yeah,
listening.
I love that. It's like one of my favorite authors, Wayne Dyer, who passed away quite a few years ago, but he talked about if you're always looking every day at what's wrong inside, you never do the good things in life. You never do the right things about, being you every day. Yeah, it's so true. And it's so easy to, I think I've even fallen into that trap recently because I'm doing huge shifts in myself this year, and I'm finding that I'm now sitting in that lull after some really big shifts towards the a more surrendered me, and I'm like going, well, I want to shift more. I don't want to stagnate. I want to move forward a little bit further. But so I'm almost looking at myself in the false way. Like, so what's wrong with me? Why am I feeling like this? Why can't I get ahead of myself? Why can't I do and I'm asking the wrong questions. That is so true.
Yes, absolutely.
Mm, yeah. Yeah, and then recently I was reading about happiness, and I thought I don't think I've ever really had happiness in my life. I don't even really feel like what happiness is, and it's something that's really like we as humans can be happy every day if we don't allow life to drag down. And and I was like, it's even that question, how can we be happy in a place where all this other stuff in life is happening and things are being thrown and you never have time for you, all of that crap that keeps on happening. And it's but that's the really important part, is coming back to yourself and stopping, isn't it? Going into nature, going back to the basics, and
Hmm.
loving yourself again.
Yes, I think happiness is such a big concept in a way that everybody has a different definition to it. And I think there's a different lens that the Western world and the Eastern world look at happiness, especially from the philosophy that we were brought up with. Um, I just want to make it clear that the way I define happiness is not gratification. Right? Because people, oh, I'm just gonna go more, be more happy. I'm gonna travel. I'm just gonna spend whatever I want to spend. I just want to be free, and right? That is a trap to happiness. And
Exactly.
I believe what's Will Smith has a movie called The Pursuit of Happiness, right? And we all know, what unfolds when we try to chase after it.
Mm.
In the Eastern Buddhist and Taoist and in many different philosophies, happiness is your state of mind. It's who you are. It's your true nature. And I like what you say is like, going back to nature, pausing, stopping, is to realize that you are whole to begin with. right? Again, it goes back to the question, am I something wrong with me or is something right with me?
Yeah.
Because you are whole. And personally, I go back to the whole again, me observing nature helps me to realize this insight. Imagine that you are a seed, right? And you're a seed of a fruit, let's just call it the mango fruit. And that seed contains all the potentiality and the codes to be a mango tree and bear mango fruit, right? But that doesn't mean the seed is lacking anything of a mango, but you're not going to see it,
Mm.
right? So happiness is just like that seed where we have to learn the wholeness is already there, but we just have to learn how to cultivate it, water it, put it in the right environment for it to grow. I mean, you can't put it at the beach because the sand is not going to grow and the seed is not going to sprout. And we got to put it in the right space, in the right environment. And then, of course, from there, it's going to start over years, over time. It's going to become a mango tree and become a mango fruit. So that's what really happiness is. I think when we can live to our design of who we are, and that in itself, it's leadership, that gift serves everybody around us. We start to share mango fruit with everybody. Everybody get to benefit from it,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And
Because
then we pass on.
if we're all living our purpose, doing what we are, why we are living, and what we're doing out in the world to each other and helping each other and cultivating that, then happiness will come and compassion will come because that's what we're doing for each other. Yeah,
Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
very much believe in that happiness model. Yes, I probably should have separated.
Yeah, and happiness is so powerful and impactful. I think when leaders are leading from that presence rather than performing,
Yes.
right? Bringing happiness into the culture, into the people. When people feel that, people is gonna perform better. I mean, we perform better when we feel better, right? Not when we are worse.
Yeah.
So definitely, happiness is definitely something that definitely should be cultivated in our personal life as well, in workspaces and in families.
Yeah. So if we want to see more heart-led leadership in as a normality in businesses, in governments, in countries, in environments, how do we start creating cultures?
From a very simplistic perspective, I have this world wheel. You just have to be you. Right? But let me unpack that a little bit. Because within you contain a gift, a purpose, right? That is gonna drive you to motivate you to do certain things, just like you today putting out this podcast, just like you offering your services, offering your care, your presence to people. And just by being you, you're gonna touch many people's life. And then from then on, it becomes the very practical things like how do we build trust? Right? I think trust is missing in the world. And if we want to see more heart-centered people, certain leaders have to start opening their heart even when they're not ready. They have to take the leap of faith even when they know that the fear is out there, the insecurities are out there. But they open their heart anyway and they do the right thing to plant seeds of kindness, seeds of love, one heart at a time to build trust. I think there's need to be a lot of generosity, a lot of giving to see more heart-centered in people out there without sacrificing integrity, without sacrificing standards, right? Because if love and happiness and care and generosity is so precious, we got to protect it with our life fiercely. And with that, we got to know what are some standards that people need to adhere. That's more on the masculine strong side. That's the structure. But from the feminine perspective, and the union of this is so important, is the healing, is tending to our wounds, is being safe enough to feel what we could not feel, because the leadership today is driven by numbness, by avoidance, by denial. So we need to cultivate more spaces like this where people are safe to heal, and healed people heal others. And that will create a ripple effect of people being generous and offering their kindness to each and everyone. So definitely the union between these two that I'm talking about, of course, it starts with you, right? You can't change anybody who doesn't want to walk that path. So we focus on those who care and who wants it. And here's the thing about the world, right? We don't need everybody in the world to do that. We just need a certain critical mass, a certain percentage of people. And that on the quantum level in the field starts to shift everybody towards a certain direction.
Yeah. And I think if more people hear your message and what we're putting out regularly, and my own messages is, people hear that, hear those truths and go, yes, that is me. I want to live that purpose. I want to live that in my leadership, and be vulnerable, go do it. And one at a time, we can change.
In fact, it's happening already.
Yes, I've noticed that too. I got a few goosebumps through that as you were talking there, because I really feel like huge shifts have been happening in the last year. And it's exciting to see what is going to come in the future. Just quickly, what's one truth you can return to when everything else falls away?
Love is patient, love is kind, love is everything.
Yeah.
Right. And we can trust love because love, within love, has all the intelligence to heal, to be abundant, to create inner peace. And when we follow love truthfully, our life changes. When our life changes, everybody else change for the better.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Well, thank you, Chiron, for being here today and for sharing parts of your story that were hard to talk about. It's something that, I know that will resonate in many people's lives. And thank you for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
This has been Dr. Mel Baker
and Sean Manair on Living Reflections.
Thanks for listening.